Here we are. I think I got a confession to make. I feel like I know what I want to talk about, but I really don't know what I want to talk about. I'm a little bit all over the place. So, if it come out that way, now you know. But before we get into it, let's just take care of business. Go, Eagles. All right, go ahead. Let us represent. Go, Eagles. This morning, I want to, as I always do, start us out with a few spiritual principles. And when I say spiritual principles, it is more than what's on this piece of paper. There are lots of spiritual principles, so I don't want to confuse people by saying that. This, in fact, was derived from what Ernest Holmes titled as What We Believe. And we have numbered them and called them spiritual principles. We also added universal principles and laws in alignment with the science of mind on this document. There's also an interpretation added to this documentation and some non-jargon language. This was created years ago by a group of people at the center called Being Who We Say We Are. This goes back to 2014 or 15, I think, something like that, but it's an incredible document. This is my original one, and I'm so grateful for it. It really helps to get me grounded every Sunday and through the week. And so you can do a search for Ernest Holmes and What We Believe, and you'll have a copy of it. We also have it attached to anybody who is on our mailing list to be able to get a copy of it as well. And this morning, we're working with spiritual principle number 1, and it states, we believe in God, the living spirit, almighty one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. We believe this one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. We believe the manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. Spiritual principle number 2, we believe in the individualization of the spirit in us. We believe that all people are individualizations of the one spirit. Spiritual principle number 8, we believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. And in the interpretation of that, the committee said that what this means then is that a belief is not an idea that my mind possesses. It is an idea that possesses my mind. What I believe can move a mountain or put one in my way, for it is done unto me as I believe. And finally, spiritual principle number 11. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that the life of all is God. So, we have this month been focusing on the introduction section in the Science of Mind textbook written by Ernest Holmes. And in the introduction section, it is divided into 4 parts. And we've spent some time with the first 3 parts, the first 3 Sundays of the month. Each part builds upon the other part. If you're not familiar with the Science of Mind textbook, I would invite you to purchase it. And if you don't go to any other part of the book, you can find what's really foundational and fundamental just in the introduction section. The book is filled with ancient wisdom, words from mystics, and it is for the one who is serious about creating a life of peace, to the one who is serious about experiencing more joy in their life. It's important that you have a great understanding of the foundational teachings of the science of mind, the fundamental teachings, or this teaching, this practice can feel like something other than what it is. It can feel like that there is magic, and truly, it's not. It's not magic, but it's magical. When you understand the foundational and the fundamental teachings of the science of mind and you begin to apply them to your life is and will become magical. So I'm inviting us to be with the material in a way that takes us into really understanding it, embodying it, and certainly with the material, you should question it. Not the deliverer of the material, but the material itself. See if what he is saying, or what any person who has put together some material that we can take in that can aid us in our living, we should be, you want to be at a place where you can question it. And you should question it. How is this true or not for me in my life? Can I see that this is true or not for me in my life? So you should question it. In part 4 of the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes says that life is absolute perfection. He says that God's world is perfect, that the world is perfect. I mean, what a statement to make in light of what some of us might be experiencing that would certainly bump up against that and say, well, I don't know. I don't know so much about that. Is life perfect? I mean, absolute perfection is what he said. And he says that this idea that life is absolute perfection, that this is the principle that each of us, in our seeking to discover the God within us, that this is the principle that we're all out to prove. That life is absolute perfection. That's it. We should be set out to prove it in every way. So what does he mean when he says that life is absolute perfection and that the world is perfect? Well, he means that each of us, we have been given everything that we need to be able to create the life that we desire. What he means by that is that there is good available. This good is infinite in its variety and in its expression, and that this good is available to you and this good is available to me. Not some of it, but all of it. That's what he means when he says life is absolute perfection. Not only have we been given what we need to create the life that we desire, we have also been given all that we need to see our past differently, to begin to see life in a different perspective. We've been given all that we need in both of these areas of our life, so that if we do begin to apply the principle, to apply the teachings to our life, that little by little we'll stop finding fault in others. Because that is the thing that really keeps us in a place where we are settling for a life that we don't desire. It is full of fault finding. So little by little then we release that desire within us to stop fault finding. And it's not easy. It's not easy because we are so full of our opinions and we are so full of judgments that it's all we know. It's like that. It's like, it's all I know. We're so accustomed to it. We're so familiar with it that the teaching really offers us an opportunity to begin to let the fault finding go. So we've been given all that we need then to prove the principle that life is absolute perfection. What is it that we've been given according to the Science of Mind textbook? We all have been given the ability to think. And it's important to note when we say think, what we mean is that what you think and what you feel is the sum total of what you believe. So you need to know exactly the definition so that you're not confused about what you say and what you think. Because we all have heard, it is done unto you as you believe. And what you think and you feel is the sum total of what you believe. And so you can say one thing, but you can be believing another thing. So you want to be clear about it. So every day then, each of us, we must, today more than perhaps any time, with our world so full of opinions and our world so full of judgment, our world so full of fault finding that, this teaching just becomes more relevant in my estimation for my ability to sustain my peace and my joy, right? So every day then we must take time to consider, to question ourselves, just what am I thinking? And what have I been thinking about? If you haven't taken any time to ask yourself those questions, then you're living in a world where you are settling for what probably will happen. And what probably will happen has already happened. So you need to be asking yourself these questions. The problem is that the majority of time, like I said, we are all stuck in thinking about, or we are all stuck in fault finding. And the fault finding is on autopilot. We're just finding fault with people, finding fault with the world, finding fault with ourselves. So we need to be able to identify this in ourselves. And because that's the only thing we are thinking about, then life can only give you more opportunities to find fault. Because it is done unto you as you believe. That's just the way the law works. Speaking of the law, Ernest Holmes, in the introduction section, he says that something happens with our thought. And it is done unto you as you believe. But he goes on to explain that what we think, that there is a law within ourselves, just like all the other laws that we know about that are invisible. The law of gravity, the law of electricity. We can't quite put it in our hand, but we do know that it exists and we do know how to use it. Same is true for this law of mind that Ernest Holmes talks about. We don't know, we can't put it in our hand, we can't, quantify it and do anything like that with it, but we can use it. What he suggests is that this law is so absolute in its execution that we should be so mindful of our subtle thoughts, the things we don't even know that we are thinking about. Become practiced in that way because we know that something happens to our thoughts. He says that the law of mind, that is what you think and I think, is entered into is received by the universe in such a way that the law then becomes our faithful servant. The thing that you should know about the law, though, or the thing that you should know, that what you are thinking about and what you feel, it is done unto you as you believe, and the law itself, it is no respecter of persons. The law itself is not concerned about what it is that you are thinking. It just executes. It just moves into action. You know what I'm saying? The law is kind of like this. What's his name? The rapper, Ludacris. Remember? He had the song, "When I move, you move," just like that, right? The law says, when you move, I move. It's like that. When you think a new thought, I'll give you a new experience. When you move, I move. It's like that. Everybody got how the law works? Y'all got it? Yes. Okay. So the law is our faithful servant. It's just taking in what you are thinking about, not concerned about what you are saying, just taking it in what you are thinking about. But we are so consumed and so filled with fault finding that we never get a chance to think about what it is that we really are desiring. When people come to see practitioners, we say, well, what do you want? And a lot of times people say, I don't know. And it's true. Many of us, we don't know what it is that we want. Why? Because we haven't taken any time to really consider what it is that we really and truly want. We haven't given ourselves any time to think about what it would feel like if the thing that you are desiring that you had. You haven't given yourself any time to think about what it would feel like. Oh, what it would feel like if I was immersed in the experience of more love than I could even imagine. You haven't given yourself the time to think about what it would feel like if you got the new job or you met the right person. We haven't even given ourselves time to think about it and to think about what it would feel like. So you have to give yourself time to think about the thing that you are desiring and not just think about it. You also have to give yourself time to begin to feel what it would feel like if this was my experience. Because what you think and you feel is what you believe. And that's what the law will give back to you in your life. Ernest Holmes says that he says that to know how to think is to know how to live. And he proposes that if we change our thinking, we will change our life. So, here's the problem. I used to think, not every Sunday, but a lot of Sundays I have some music that I'm playing to get me in the mood and, ready to go. And I love the John Legend song. It's one of his old songs, So High. And in it, he says a line, something like, don't you wanna go, don't you wanna go, don't you wanna go, heaven, heaven, don't you wanna go, don't you? And in my mind, I would think, yeah, why wouldn't anybody want to experience heaven? And it's not that people don't want to experience heaven. As he says, feels like heaven, sweet like life, sweet like heaven. It's not that people don't want to experience life in that way. It's that people doubt that they can experience life in that way. And when you stop doubting that you can experience life in that way, you will start to experience life in that way. And as Ernest Holmes says then, life is absolute perfection, right? So you got to be able to identify when you are in doubt about it, when you are so consumed with blaming people, when you are where you are continuing to believe in your life that people, places, and things have power over you. Because as long as you do that, you are you're stuck in what can probably happen rather than what can possibly happen. Our journey is to get to a point where we're living from a place where we are so convinced about what can possibly happen rather than what has already happened. Are you with me so far? Okay, so here's the thing though, when we've been thinking so long when we've been thinking in a way for so long where we're just finding fault, it can be hard to think otherwise. When we are so caught in our opinions and our judgments, it can be really hard to loosen that and to open up to a new possibility. I'm admitting it. But when we understand that something happens to our thought, and this is not just wishful kind of thinking, this is the truth. So much so that Ernest Holmes says it can be proved. That is why he calls it the science, because you can prove it. You can prove that when you change your thinking, that your life will change. And what I love about the teaching is that it suggests that you don't have to take my word for it. You can find out for yourself. And in part 4 of the Science of Mind textbook, he warns us, he said, don't get caught up in too much theory trying to understand how it works. Don't spend time trying to understand how electricity works. If you want some light, go turn the light on. Don't spend too much time trying to understand it. Just use it. Just begin to think a new thought. Just take some time to quieten your mind and to begin to see where you are having thoughts of judgment, where you are finding fault. I know. Many of you are thinking, she ain't even talking to me. I ain't got no problem with nobody. I ain't finding fault with nobody. I ain't got no opinion about nothing. Right? Tell your neighbor, she talking to you. Tell your other neighbor, she is talking to you. You might think that. You might think that. Many of us thought that until we had the opportunity to see, until we were so committed to slowing down and quieting our mind and becoming aware of just what we were thinking about, until we decided to commit to think about just what we are thinking about. Because once we understand the way the law works, when you move, I move. It's like that. When we understand that, Ernest Holmes says there'll come a point in time when our thoughts will remain in heaven. And yours and mine then will be a heavenly experience. You and I, we really will prove that life is absolute perfection. So, we have to start thinking about what we are thinking about. We have to start thinking about more what is possible rather than what is probable. Because as I said, if you are stuck in what's probable, you're thinking about what already happened. What's probable is based on what has happened, and what's possible is based on what can happen. So I got to get to this because I'm running out of time. So here's the thing. Let us be moved into practice today. Let us be moved into practice today. How to use it, you quieten your mind, you become aware of your fault finding, you become aware of your opinions, you become aware of your judgments, you become aware of your set expectations, you become aware of when you are wrapped up in thinking about the past over and over and over again. That's step number 1. And when I say the past, I'm not just talking about 50 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 1 year ago. I'm talking about even a minute ago. Become aware of it. If it's fault finding, if it's full of judgment, quieten your mind, become aware of it. And then refuse to think about it. Let it go and refuse to think about it. How do you refuse to think about it? Just don't think about it. Don't think about it. Because the moment you don't think about it, something new can enter in. The moment you stop thinking about it, we begin to invite a new idea in. We begin to invite a new experience in. We allow ourselves the opportunity just to feel what it would feel like if all of our needs were really and truly met. So quieten your mind. Get clear about it. Let it go, and then move into prayer. Move into prayer. That's it. So let us practice. I have a prayer that Ernest Holmes wrote, and I'm going to invite us all into practice. So right now, what I want you to do is just quieten your mind. And if you haven't already, give yourself the opportunity to think about what you've been thinking about. See if anywhere in you there is fault finding. See if anywhere in you there is judgment. See if anywhere in you your opinion precedes you. See if within you you are trying to set your expectations upon another. And now that you've got that, for a moment I'm inviting you to set it down, to let it go. In a few minutes you can pick it back up, but for now, set it down. Let your opinion go. Suspend your opinion. Suspend your judgment. Suspend the fault finding for a moment. Even if you are finding fault with yourself, suspend it. Put it down for a moment. And now what we are to do, as we've given ourselves the opportunity to stop thinking about it, let us begin to fill ourselves in with truth. Let us become so invested in the truth and so interested in the truth. Let us fill our minds with truth so that we can begin to change what's in here. Because when we change what's in here, when we change ourselves, what's out there changes. And here is the prayer. I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God-conscious life, truth, and actions. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is power in this word that I speak because it is of the truth and it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and affairs. The Spirit in me animates everything I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct and sustain me without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing, to say the right word at the right time, and to follow the right course of action. My word is the law and will bring to me or cause me to be brought to its fulfillment now. There is no unbelief. There is no doubt, nor uncertainty. I know, and I know that I know. This truth that I speak sets me free. If you don't know a prayer like this, pray what you know how to pray. Pray in a way that you know how to pray. If all you know that God is good, let that be your prayer. If all you know is that life is working out for my highest and my best, let that be your prayer. If all you know is that only good can come of this, let that be your prayer. If all you know is that I am one with Spirit, let that be your prayer. If all you know is that God and I are one, let that be your prayer. Until you begin to feel different. Until you begin to feel different. Because when you feel different, you will think differently. And life will be different. Practitioners, join me. Join me in knowing this to be the absolute truth for each and every one of us. as we align ourselves with the divine mind, the great power and the presence, the spirit that is within us, this essence that is never an absence, let us affirm and know now again that I am a center in the divine mind. I am a center in this good stuff, a point of God conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. I affirm and I know that everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is power in this word that I speak because it is the truth, and it is of truth, and it is the truth. I know for you there is perfect and continuous right action in your life and affairs, that the spirit in you animates everything that you do, say, and think. I affirm and I know that ideas come to you daily, and that these ideas are divine ideas. They direct and sustain you without effort. I know for you that you are continuously directed, that you are compelled to do the right thing, to say the right word at the right time, and to follow the right course of action. I know that the word that you speak and the word that I speak, it is the law, and will bring to me or cause me, will bring to you or cause to be brought to you its fulfillment. I know for you, as I know for myself, there is no more unbelief. There is no more doubt. There is no more uncertainty. I know, and I know that I know, and I know this is true for you. This truth I speak. It's already set me free, and it has set you free too. I release my word, knowing it to already be done. As I give great thanks for it, I just set my words free, and as I do so, I am set free. Let us just come together in an agreement about it by saying, and so it is. And so as we journey on throughout our week, let me remind you, as Ernest Holmes has stated, that life is absolute perfection. Let us be about our business this week then, improving it. Take time to quieten your mind and to think about what you are thinking about, so you can think about what you really want to think about. And so it is.